Hello and welcome to week 1 video 2. This is over the commutative, associative, and distributive properties. You should have these notes completed by this Wednesday, which is 8/28. Okay, we are now on page 6, so make sure that you turn to page 6, and I want you to write your content objective, and I also want you to write your academic vocabulary. So if you need to, go ahead and pause the video now and write these down. We will use the commutative, associative, and distributive properties to simplify expressions, and we have academic vocabulary, commutative, associative, and distributive. Alright, after you've written your content objective and your academic vocabulary, I want you to draw a line straight across the page. Then I want you to drop down a little bit more and draw another line straight across the page, and then a third line straight across the page. So what you should have is 3 equal rows, and then I want you to draw a line, or 2 vertical lines, so you have essentially 9 of the same sized boxes. So here's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9. Commutative. The word commutative comes from the word commute, which means to move. So the commutative property is the property that refers to moving stuff around. This should be written in box number 1. Okay, we're still on page 6, but now we're in box number 2. We are going to do 2 different examples, one with addition, one with multiplication for the commutative property. Let's start with 2 plus 3 plus 4, and we're going to say that that is the same thing as 4 plus 2 plus 3. All I did was I took this 4 from being at the end of the problem to being at the front of the problem. I commuted it, I moved it. So we need to show that these are equal to each other. So 2 plus 3, we know, is 5, and 5 plus 4 equals 9. We'll see 4 plus 2 is 6, and 6 plus 3 is 9. So the commutative property worked. Let's try it with multiplication. If we have, we'll start with 5 and 4. So 5 times 4, we need to show that it's the same thing as 4 times 5. And you all are very good with your multiplication facts, so you know 5 times 4 is 20, and you also know that 4 times 5 is 20, so it works. Okay, we are now in box 3. We're going to be showing this using algebra. So using algebra, we use different variables. So let's say A times B times C. With the commutative property, we're saying that if we move one of those around, it would still be the same thing. So C times A times B. Which is also the same thing if we do it with addition. So A plus B plus C is going to be the same thing as C plus A plus B. We're now in box number 4, and we are writing down associative. The word associative means to associate or group. So with this property, numbers can be grouped using parentheses. Okay, let's try an example with the associative property. If you have 4 plus 5 plus 7, we'll say that 5 plus 7 is in parentheses. With the associative property, essentially what you're saying is parenthesis 4 plus 5 plus 7 is the same thing. We know that with order of operations, we need to do what's in the parentheses first. So 5 plus 7 is 12. And 4 plus 12 is 16. So now on the other side, we see 4 plus 5 in parentheses, so that's 9. 9 plus 7 is 16. So we know it worked. Same thing with multiplication. If we have 2 times 3 times 4, with parentheses around the 3 and the 4, it's going to be the same thing as 2 times 3 parentheses times 4. 3 times 4 is 12. 12 times 2 is 24. 2 times 3 is 6. 6 times 4 is 24. With algebra, it's just simple. We'll say parenthesis A plus B, close parenthesis, plus C. It's going to be the same thing as A plus open parenthesis, B plus C, close the parentheses. And then with multiplication, A times BC will equal the same thing as parenthesis A, B, C. Okay, just so we're keeping track, I want to make sure that you know that we are now on box number 7, working on the distributive property. The words distribute, or the word distributive comes from distribute, and you should think of distributive property as passing numbers out to each term in a set of parentheses. So the key thing that I'm looking for here is that we are distributing these numbers. So we are distributing, or we are passing the numbers. For the distributive property, we'll start with 3 times 2 plus 5, with 2 plus 5 in the parentheses. We know 2 plus 5 is 7, and we know that 3 times 7 is 21. So with the distributive property, what you're doing is, instead of doing the stuff in the parentheses first, you're really saying, I'm going to take 3 times 2 and 3 times 5 and see what that gives me. So the way we can do that is we can say 3 times 2 and 3 times 5. So 3 times 2 plus 3 times 5. 3 times 2 is 6, and 3 times 5 is 15. So now 6 plus 15 is 21. So we see that they are equal. With algebra, it's going to be the same thing. So let's start with A times parenthesis B plus C. And that's going to be the same thing as A times B, or AB, plus AC. Okay, that's it. Thank you, and see you tomorrow.